Hey, good evening, and welcome. This time once again for CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. I will be your host for this evening. My name is Mr. Garza, and I am here to let you know that WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign community. Yep, views expressed are those of the speakers, and they are not intended to represent WRFU, UC IMC, or the Urbana Socialist Forum, or UPTV, otherwise known as Urbana Public Television. These views are our own, that's kind of hard to say. These views are, in fact, mine and my guest, who will introduce himself right now.
Hi, my name is Evan Keller. I'm a student at the University of Illinois. I'm a junior. I'm an intern with the Champaign-Urbana Immigration Forum. That's why I was invited here tonight. I'm majoring in political science, Spanish, and communication, and looking forward to the next half hour.
Wait a minute. You told me that you weren't very good with languages, and now you're telling me you major in Spanish? I mean, you've got to be pretty good, right?
Well, it was, I picked it up in order to speak it. So, currently I'm not that good, but I hope to be fluent by the time I graduate. But
so your concept of not that good and my concept of not that good are very different, right?
Maybe.
So when I say I'm not that good, I mean I'm like, ¿Cómo estás? And you're like, oh, muy bien.
Well, I okay. You got me.
Yes, I am very fluent in the language of love. So I say, okay, all right. See, I was bearing my soul to you and telling you what a lame-o Spanish speaker I am, and you're sitting there going like, oh yeah, no, I'm not so good either. I'm just a college major in Spanish. That's all. All right, now I know how to take you from now on.
Okay.
You like downplay your accomplishments, I can see, or something.
That's sort of true, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, intern at the CU Immigration Forum, what does that mean?
Well,
what will you be doing?
Just started in early September, so I haven't been there too long, but, I'm working at the YMCA under Megan Flowers, and then also a little bit for Ricardo Diaz. And we'll see, what have I done so far? I did a little bit, wrote the weekly newsletter about the Immigrant Awards ceremony that I unfortunately had to miss. I organize the student weekly meetings. We have a student working group that meets every Wednesday at 4. We've been working on an immigrant health fair, and so I've been organizing those meetings and getting things going there. We're also working on a stories aspect as well, where we hope to interview some undocumented students and produce some content where they speak about the need for access to health care and for access to higher education MAP grants.
So like video or audio or just
we're still working on it now. We're thinking both. We're thinking but yeah, both video and audio. Maybe give the interviewees the option of what they want to do. Some of them may want to be anonymous. Some of them may not want to be.
Yeah, we shot some stuff a while back, and it's very difficult to shoot video. I mean, it's hard enough. Like, we're shooting video right now, obviously, for the TV show, and really it's probably really boring to watch. I hate to say it. I would like to be interesting for you, but it's just two people sitting here talking, and except for the occasional grand gesture or facial expression, we're pretty, even keel. And when you take out somebody's face, then what do you got? You get an outline, sort of whatever. Then the words become terribly important, if they're not saying something really dramatic, it's just like, yeah, okay, that's really interesting. So I don't know. It's almost. I've thought about this because we really, for a while, we were going to try to do a big project, and like capture all these testimonies and things. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like, there's just not any way to do this unless we could get footage of something that's relevant to what the person is talking about, and then just show it in the background, and then occasionally you see the in the dark or, the silhouette or whatever from behind. Either that or have them talking to somebody who's really good at reacting, like, just really making broad reactions. It's like, I don't know how to do it. So even though people really like video, they respond to that best, I think, in terms of, we like to watch stuff and to see it. I wonder if that's the best medium.
Yeah. We also, a member of the student group had brought up StoryCorps, which is, I believe, through NPR. I'm not sure, but that would be in the more like a podcast, which also seemed to be, getting more popular. But so we thought about that, but I think we're still leaning towards mostly video.
That could be a cool thing, too. The Urbana Library was going to do that for a while. In fact, they applied for a StoryCorps grant, and they didn't get it for some reason. But that was their plan, was to do something just like what you're talking about here. And so I don't know. Yeah, that would be a very cool way of doing it, because I think you can get a better conversation. Video is very uncomfortable for some people. And it just... they kind of freeze up and become very stiff. Audio, you just turn something on and kind of forget about it, and then just talk for a while, and then they just sort of ignore that it's there. As long as you're not sitting there with a microphone in their face like right now, this is probably annoying to you to have that thing sitting right there. It's annoying me, having it sitting here. It's probably like exactly between the camera and your face, so it's like nobody can see you anyway.
I'll lean to this side.
As long as you can see the camera, it can see you. I think that's it. Anyway, so how did you come across CU Immigration Forum as a possible place to intern?
So, I had done some stuff with immigration in the past, and I know that that's one of the big issues for me, and I was looking for, an internship, and I came across an internship with the New Americans Initiative, which that was in early August, and then unfortunately, while I was in the application process for that, Megan informed me that the funding had been cut, due to the budget. So the New Americans Initiative, from my understanding, is no more, but she encouraged me to apply for the CU Immigration Forum internship instead, and that's how I ended up there.
So does political science and interest in immigration overlap somehow? Is that are two part of the same larger picture for you?
Right. I mean, I think everybody in political science that's interested in domestic policy, which is it's kind of a small group within the university. There's people that are interested in foreign affairs or the more academic side, and then you have the domestic people, and I consider myself more interested there, but everybody within that field has their interests, and mine are kind of, I would say healthcare and immigration and just general economic issues, and differs for everybody, but certainly I see the intersection of, political science and immigration, and
What moves someone to go into political science in the first place? I mean, I don't know enough about what they teach you in political science to know. I mean,
since I've been in high school, and probably earlier than that, I know that I want to go into politics and government. And in some form, I don't really have any specific plans, but I think that it's generally recognized that that's the path. You get a political science degree. Is what I'm learning in political science that relevant to my career? It's a lot more academic than I thought it would be. It's a lot more, research based, and which is fine, and I'm definitely learning from that, but it's not that applicable, I think, to my general what I want to do in the career. But as far as how I got interested in it, I just knew it was sort of the path that people that are interested in that take. I had other interests that I'll pursue outside of the degree, but it's almost a requirement to enter that field that I'm hoping to go in.
So you were a political junkie in high school? You were like, oh man,
always.
Those, whatever they are, the party that I don't like, whoever they are, I hate them. If only there were someone who understood politics but had my opinions, like me.
True.
We could save the world. Actually, I think politics are really interesting. We report on politics a lot on this show, obviously because my earphones are very weird here, because it has such a profound effect on the lives of the people that we're trying to help. And so the maneuvering and the gamesmanship and the power plays that go on are all relevant to what we're doing. So we talk about it a lot. Yeah. And I will admit to being a real political junkie too. I think I started... I'm trying to remember. When I was little, I wasn't. but I think actually it was Watergate. They showed the hearings on TV, and I started watching those when I was a kid, and it was like, and I started understanding, like in school, they teach you the difference between the parties and the different parts of government and stuff, and that all just went like totally by me. I didn't care about that, but to me, it was the government. They were all kind of the same, and I didn't really see the difference. But then watching those on TV, and I started separating the different people who were doing the questioning and different people being questioned and what they were doing and what they were there for and what it was all about. And it just started to become really interesting to me. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So these are the people that like decide stuff that affects us in different ways, and they're deciding things based not on necessarily on how they affect us, but how it affects them and their personal plans and their little maneuvering and everything. And it started to seem like, oh, wow. In a way, I think that's really unfortunate that politics is a thing in and of itself aside from the business of running the country. Mm-hmm. It is a separate whole arena in which people play out various things, that have really nothing. They use the running of the country as their not tool but vehicle for their maneuvering. But what they're doing and why they're doing it has nothing to do with what their job is supposed to be, and it can make you very sour on the whole process.
I hear people are sour on politics these days.
And it's playing out in an interesting way, isn't it? I mean, just in the way they're reacting to candidates now and the kinds of candidates that they're supporting. Mm-hmm. It's clearly there. If there's any one message that you could say that the public is sending to Washington right now, it's that we're really sick of you guys and everything about you, so we're going to just like start liking people for weird reasons that have nothing whatsoever to do with how they fit into your system. And it's kind of interesting to watch and see how baffled the other people in the government are at this and trying to figure out, like, well, what are they telling me here? I don't understand. Why do they like this guy? He's crazy. It's like, that's why they like him. He's crazy, and they can relate to that. It's like, hey, maybe he'll just blow everything up, and then we can start over again. It's a really interesting thing. Of course, this is very far afield from immigration, but it's not in another sense, because it is affecting immigration in a big way. Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, ever since the comprehensive immigration reform made it out of the Senate and then just died in the House, it's that posturing, that whole thing is totally affecting the lives of millions of people in this country.
Yeah.
Do you have any relationship to immigration outside of just an interest in it as a political activity?
Well, as far as how I was involved with immigration before this, in January of last year, I joined a student group called RISE, and RISE was like a new kind of tech politics startup founded by a undocumented immigrant or student from the Philippines. His name was Vishal, and he was computer science and political science. So that was the whole theory behind the organization, was sort of bridging the gap between the two worlds. And so what we were primarily focused on was House Bill 3528 in the Illinois legislature, which was a bill that would have allowed undocumented students to access financial aid. Mm-hmm. Currently, they are not able to, and many of them aren't able to go to the schools that they want to, or if they do go, they leave with much higher, student debt than students with citizenship. So we were very active on that, and I saw it on a personal level. We went to the Capitol 3 times to lobby legislators, and we met students from other schools there. From the University of Chicago or University of Illinois at Chicago, we met the Undocumented Fearless Alliance, a group of 20 undocumented students that all came down to lobby their legislators. So, I made a lot of friends there that were undocumented, and I'd never really been exposed to that before. So that's been my primary exposure to really immigration policy was that campaign. The bill stalled. It was about 5 to 10 votes short in the House, despite Democrats having, about 70 votes in the House. We were only able to get 50. Of course, we started from zero. So, and bills like that, they often fail the first time around, and then they pass the second or third time around. So it was not uncommon and not unexpected, but it was certainly disappointing. And it looks like they're going to reintroduce it in the next session in January. So, hoping to get involved and do it again. But that's my primary exposure to immigration and the community.
So that's an interesting thing. So here you are, you're working with undocumented students, and undoubtedly you're realizing, oh, they're just people like me. That's, a lot of them just grew up here. They're as much American as I am, except for a piece of paper. Did you ever get the sense that when you would go to lobby or do these things that the people you were talking to could see that? Or
Well, some. I mean, there were the ones that weren't supportive, and okay. The phrase that they would say was, my kids. And what they mean by my kids is not always their actual kids, but really when you think about it, they mean the white kids in their district or the citizens, maybe, give them some benefit of the doubt, the citizens in the district. But that was just a common phrase, was my kids. And it's like they didn't see that the kids in their district were all the kids, And there's a classic phrase that, through no fault of their own, whether you agree with that phrase or not. But I mean, I do. But anyway, they didn't get that at all. I mean, that was not, they didn't think, well, these students didn't choose to come here, or they didn't, in my opinion, even if they did, it doesn't matter. But that just wasn't a factor for them. It was, how does this affect the other students? Will they get less money because of these, non-citizens entering the pool all of a sudden? That was their main concern. And again, it wasn't all legislators, but there was a lot that, my kids was the common phrase that they used.
That's really interesting. I've not heard anyone articulate that before. And I've probably read like that phrase in a response that somebody, in a public statement, but I never really thought of it in the terms that you're talking about here, in terms of them seeing it as us and them. It's that way of thinking, that there's us, and however you define us, and see, that's the basis of like just about everything, social class, racism, nationalists. Everybody is thinking in terms of us and them, and by making this distinction, you've set people apart from each other. So I represent us, you represent them to me, and vice versa. And so if I'm thinking, well, we here at WRFU, deserve the comfortable seats because we're here, we're putting in the work, I'm here day after day doing stuff, and I deserve a comfortable seat. You're just some guy that came in, you're going to be here for a little while, then you're going to leave. I'm just going to give you the crappy seat because you haven't earned it. Frankly, I'm sorry, you may like to sit in a comfy seat too, but you haven't earned it like I have. And it's that thinking. You can take that as far as you want to, all the way up to Donald Trump, and his whole thing. It's amazing how far you can go with that. I mean, think World War II and Nazis. I mean, people talk about how you've gone too far when you start referencing Nazis. It's like the conversation is lost. There's no argument anymore. But it's a good thing that most people recognize as like the ultimate in othering, in terms of like the government created a policy where there's us, the Aryan race, and them, gypsies, Jews, homosexuals, whoever, and they took that to the logical conclusion. This is our country, not yours. You don't belong here. We've got to get rid of you somehow. There's nowhere to ship you to, so we'll just get rid of you. I mean, it's like I usually resist slippery slope arguments, but this is a prime example of a slippery slope. As soon as you start seeing somebody else as fundamentally different from you, then you can describe that any way you want. You can build that, frame it.
Yeah. And the other thing with this debate that we noticed was that it was different from the previous immigration-related bills in Illinois, where, like, you have the driver's license bill, and that eventually passed. But really, that wasn't anything to do with resources. That was just about rights. I mean, all that enabled undocumented people to do was pay money and get a license, and really that was making the state money. I mean, that was just giving them the opportunity to participate in things and do things they couldn't have done before. But with this, it's saying, the undocumented community, like, we need money. This is actually saying, we would like a share of the resources. So, I mean, we expected from the beginning that it would be a lot different debate. And because there's really no way to spin it that if you're talking about the pool that in your district that is receiving the MAP grants, it is going to affect them.
Right.
But it's just, it rests on, like you were saying, that you seeing your district as two types of people.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you see it that way, then it is going to affect the pool. There is going to be slightly less money. I mean, there's not going to be not that many undocumented students, unfortunately, that are going to be using MAP grants. But we are asking, there is a financial aspect to it that's been missing in other Illinois immigration things before. So I think that's a really interesting part of it as we move forward to see that it's financial.
Well, it is frustrating that the economic question almost inevitably comes in. Like, you can argue and argue and argue, like, people, we've lived here, they've built lives, and they're part of the community, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, not hearing it, not hearing it, not hearing it. And then you get to, they're making us money, and it's like, boing, wait, I thought they were costing us money. And then you start getting into this whole, aren't they coming here and, like, flocking to welfare and stealing jobs, aren't they, like, taking our money? It always comes down to that question, and that makes it's hard to talk about because both sides are true. There are immigrants coming here taking jobs. I mean, they're doing jobs, therefore somebody else would have had that job if they hadn't taken it. Therefore, they're taking job from somebody else. No more than the guy that moved here from Indiana who came to live with his girlfriend and he got a job. He's taking somebody's job too, but he's from Indiana and you're from Guatemala. So, so all of those things. Yeah, there are people here who are on welfare. Yeah, there are people who are using free services. And there are people here paying taxes that they don't get back. They're paying Social Security taxes to a fake number that's just going into the pool and they never get it back. So it would require, like, an amazing amount of figuring to understand really exactly, financially speaking, what is happening. And you'd have to know a lot of things that there's no way really to know. But it almost inevitably comes down to that. And I hate that because my whole argument is always, we're talking about people. These are people. Let's not look at them as numbers. Let's not look at them as a mysterious other. These are people that are part of the community. Like you, I have worked with a lot of undocumented students and a lot of undocumented people. Some of my close friends are undocumented people. They're just people. They have jobs. They're part of the community. They've been here for years. They are my neighbors and my friends. They're not illegal. They're not, all these different kinds of things. But I guess if you don't know anybody, or you don't know anybody, or I don't know, I can see how that would be really difficult. Because you have to, I hate to use the word open-minded because that sounds like you're being asked to tolerate something or understand something that's difficult. It's not that difficult to understand, but you have to be open to that understanding. And I guess there are just people who aren't.
Yeah. Lack of exposure, I mean, a lot of the students would go there and they would, legislators would use illegal and they had no concept of what that meant to the students. They would just say it over and over again, and students, most of the time, would never say anything back, but they just don't know. Like, they don't say it. I don't think that they said it meaning to do harm, but they just literally they don't know. And honestly, I come from Southern Illinois, a really small town in rural Southern Illinois, and I came here and I didn't know the meaning behind the word. I used it, I was talking to Jesse Hoyt, who's Latino. He was the field director for Carol Hammond's campaign.
Yeah.
I was just talking, and I used the word. He said, what are you doing? What, are you serious? You're just saying this to me? What? I had no concept of what the word meant. And of course, after he explains it once, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. I'll never use it again. But until somebody says, what are you doing? It's on Bill Maher 2 weeks ago. Jorge Ramos was on, and Bill used illegal, and Jorge Ramos confronted him, and he had no idea that he was being offensive, or at least he
pretended.
at least pretended like. But I think it's possible that these people have been alive for 40, 50, 60 years, and nobody's ever really explained to them the meaning behind the word, or they really haven't had much exposure to undocumented people, which is also a possibility.
So what's the difference then? I mean, okay, you say you came from small town, Southern Illinois. Clearly, you could have been all sorts of bigoted and racist or whatever, given, I don't know your background, but in that kind of area, I've been to Southern Illinois and I've met some people that were pretty, of course I've been here and I've met people that were pretty awful. So what about your upbringing left your brain open to being taught differently? Do you know? I mean,
I have, tolerant parents. That's undoubtedly part of it. I don't know. I mean, obviously I was, blessed enough to be able to come here, and I think that played a part of it too. I was the only person from my high school here. All the time I've been here, there's nobody else from my high school. So, a lot of people don't ever get out of a place like that, and they, exposure to different people is just not there. And
I just wonder why some people are able to get it. You just say, oh, here's the thing. And this is what drives us to do this sort of thing. Is like, if they would just understand, then everything would be fine. So all we have to do is explain it to them. But the problem is, most of the people you explain it to, it just goes right by them. And then there's that odd one, no offense, who's like, oh, I get it. And you're like, that was that simple. All they had to do was go, here, blah, blah, blah. And they go, oh, I get it. And then and we're done. There may be a couple of points to clear up later on that are just like, it's gonna, here's this loose end, and there's
know everything about it,
but I just don't understand why some people aren't changeable like that, or reachable. Maybe that's the word, not changeable, but reachable. You can't just say, okay, think about this logically, blah, 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 and they go, I don't get it. Like, no, it's just this. It's simple. It starts here, B, C, D. And you're like, nope, don't get it. And you're like, A, B, C, D, what are you not getting? There's no way you can't get that. And they're like, nope, I don't get it. And it's like, it's so frustrating. And that's kind of what this show, I mean, week after week, we go on here and we talk about this stuff, and it's like, fortunately, I don't have to confront the people listening who don't understand what we're talking about, as we said before the show. Oop, my timer is telling me that half an hour is up.